Hello everyone, welcome to my channel which I devote to orchids and other home plants. I'm really new to the English speaking orchid growing society community, so I want to introduce myself. I have been growing orchids for more than a year, probably for 1 year and 3 to 4 months. And I bought my first orchid in spring last year in 2018, and it was this orchid, Soga Vivian. It is now growing a keiki, and I bought it in bloom, so I know how it blooms. And now it is growing a keiki, as you see. Now there is a collection of orchids in my house because I started buying them one by one because they're really doing fine. And now I have a number of phalaenopsises. Also, I have four dendrobium phalaenopsises, one dendrobium, one cymbidium, and also one mini Oncidium, if I'm not mistaken. And the more than half of my phalaenopsises, which I bought, were without bloom, so they sold them after blooming. And I really don't know how they will be blooming when the spikes appear. And only a smaller part of my phalaenopsises, I know how they will be blooming. What kind of flowers I saw them. And okay, I will show you my phalaenopsises. As you see, they are all doing fine, and they all are on my windows, and my windows face the west and the east, and so they are all growing there on the windows, but some of them are growing also maybe half a meter from the window on the shelf, on a cupboard. So as you see, the leaves are healthy, and I'm very careful with watering them because as I read on one site, one expert said that if you want to water your orchid, wait for another 2 or 3 days. And this is a real good recommendation, which I really have proved. I mean, yes, and yes, this recommendation works for me, and I'm very careful with watering. And if I want to water it, I think that, oh no, maybe it's not the time for watering, and maybe I will wait for another 2 days. And so this works for me. As you see, I have no rot on my orchids, and I have only one problem, I would say. As you can see, I mark with a red spot those leaves which have grown in my house. I do so to identify which leaves grew in the greenhouse and which leaves have grown in my house. This is very easy to observe, and I think this is a good method of control of your orchid, how it grows. So all my leaves have such not all the leaves, but those which have grown in my house, they have these red spots on their leaves. And so I can even count how many of them have grown so far. And if you ask me what tips I have for you about orchid growing, I can say that all recommendations I follow, I take from English-speaking websites, from experts who engaged in orchid growing, and I really strictly follow their recommendations. My native language is Russian, but I don't read any Russian uh, websites which are devoted to orchids growing, because I really couldn't find any expert opinion, and all recommendations I take from Western sites, and mostly from American sites, because they really have tropical climate like in Florida, where they can grow phalaenopsis successfully. So sometimes I surf the internet, YouTube, in search of videos which are devoted to orchid growing. And I can say that so far I have seen probably about 200 no. So far, I have read and watched about 250 pieces of information, like video sites on YouTube and also websites that are devoted to orchids. And so I have read and watched 200 about 250 such pieces of information and they are really helpful, and I can say thanks to the Western orchid growing community, and especially experts which provide such valuable information to people who are the beginners in orchid growing and really didn't know what to do with my first orchid. So I started surfing the internet, and really I found very valuable information about how to grow orchids, how to plant them, how to to repot them, how to observe the roots growth, how to control their condition, or which media to choose, what is the best media for orchids growing. And I can say that I use mostly bark for my phalaenopsis, and also I use coconut mix for my Dendrobium phalaenopsis. As I said, I'm very careful with watering, so I really, when I start watering my orchids, I really water the plant, not the pot. This is very important, because sometimes people think that we should make all the pot wet, and so they water more water than the orchid really needs. And so I'm very careful, and as you see, I use mostly bark for orchids growing, but here there is some mix because I also buy ready-made media for my orchids, and this is a mix of something I really don't know, but they are fine. I can say that my orchids grow well both in pure bark and also in ready-made mix which contains bark and some maybe hydroponics and just a bit. and maybe some coconut mix, something like this, but they're really doing fine. And some of them, as you can see, this is also the mix of something. And I can also say that you see that the pots for my orchids are very big. Yes, they are 2.5 liters. They're really big, but this is I will explain why it is so. Because I served one day I served the internet and bumped into one website, and an expert or the guy who grew orchids. He said that you should. Yes, it was a video, and he said that you should take bigger pots when you report your orchids, because the roots need more space, more room to grow in. And so and also I knew that it was better to choose the pots which are transparent. So I saw only these pots in the shop, and I thought that yes, they are a bit bigger, but maybe if I am very careful with watering, they will be fine. And you see, this really works. The walls of the pots are transparent. I made such holes in them for air ventilation, because I know that orchids require a lot of air ventilation, and they don't like to be stuck in just media, and they need some air for their roots. And so I did these holes. Also, I saw this on one of the websites which I served, and I think this really works. I don't have another system for my orchids, only this one with transparent pots which have holes in them, and they're really doing fine. And on the bottom I usually put hydroponics, something like this, and the rest of the space is just the bulk or the mix, the ready-made mix for orchids. And what to say more? I will update with my videos, because as you see, this is a new spike coming out, and this orchid, it is Maria Teresa, and I bought it with blossom, so I know how it will be blooming. And you see, I bought it last autumn, and it was in bloom. Then it lost its flowers, and so it had some rest, and now it is going to bloom again. So I think that it has been 6 months from then now, from that moment which it when it blossomed the last time. So it is going to bloom again. It has produced a new spike, and also 5 more of my orchids are going to bloom soon. And so of course I will come with an update when the spikes will be bigger. Some of them are already producing buds, and when the flowers appear, I will of course make a video of them blooming. So as you can see, all my orchids are doing fine. They are healthy, they have healthy roots, they don't have any problems. And here I have showed the biggest phalaenopsises which are in my house. But of course I will come with an update for other orchids, and for the ones which will be in bloom. So okay, goodbye everyone, see you soon.